As we end today's broadcast in Brazil, where federal prosecutors have charged President Michel Temer with corruption, accusing the president of taking millions of dollars in bribes. Prosecutor Rodrigo Janot said Temer has fooled Brazilian citizens. Temer is Brazil's first sitting head of state to be formally charged with a crime. Addressing reporters Tuesday, President Temer dismissed the allegations.
They want to stop the country, stop the Congress, in a political act with fragile and precarious accusations hitting at the presidency of the Republic.
The charges against the current president, Temer, comes less than a year after Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff was impeached in what many described as a legislative coup. Her impeachment came as Brazil was engulfed in a major corruption scandal, but Rousseff herself was never accused of any financial impropriety. Since President Rousseff's ouster last year, Brazil's corruption scandal has only widened. At the center of the scandal are many of the right-wing politicians who orchestrated her ouster. Well, to talk more about the situation, we're going to Rio de Janeiro to speak with David Miranda, a journalist and the first LGBTQ member of the Rio City Council. David, welcome to Democracy Now! Talk about the significance of the indictment of the sitting president of Brazil.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me. We have facing a major crisis in Brazil right now, and with these denounces coming from the attorney prosecutor, it shows like how Brazil is so corrupt. The lower house is going to have to vote for Temer to go out. 2/3 of that has to vote against him, and as we know, many of them are corrupt as well. So we are facing a very struggle in Brazil. If they are going to be on his side or the side of the population, they are going to be going to the streets and the 30th now to do a major strike, and it can last 48 hours. So we are hoping that public opinion will change the mind of those corrupt politicians so he can vote. The Temer has to go out now.
Can you talk about what Temer is charged with, this accusation of taking millions of dollars in bribes?
Yeah, he's accused by bribery and obstruction of justice because 3 months ago, he was caught in a tape 11 at night on the palace where he lives in Brasilia with one of the biggest businessmen from JBS. He was talking to this guy, and he was asking for money and also to obstruct justice by the former lower house, Eduardo Cunha. So he wants to send money to him so keep he quiet. So that's why the accusation. And it took 3 months for the Attorney General take a look on the evidence, and he find out the reply saying that he's actually being charged for this because the tapes are real and there's evidence for that, and now he just have to send that to the STF that is going to the lower house.
I want to go to Michel Temer speaking in 2016 following the ouster of President Dilma Rousseff.
My first word to the Brazilian people is the word trust. Trust in the values that form the character of our people, the vitality of our democracy. Trust in the recuperation of our country's economy, our country's potential in its social and political institutions.
So that was Temer last year, right after he was involved with the ouster of Dilma Rousseff. What happens now, David?
Well, it's funny because we took a presidency. Her party is very corrupt. She was charged for fiscalization. She changed the move economically, but she was not charged with corruption. And now we have the first president in history that is charged actually with criminal and for obstructing justice. And we're facing a decision because Temer was the choice of the elites of Brazil for changing and pass the laws that subjudge the labor and the Brazil. So he was doing the work, the dirty work in Brazil, but right now they're facing he's not going to be able because the public opinion is changing towards him. So the old parties are getting together now in Brazil, like PT, the Works Party from Dilma, PSDB, the former President Fernando Henrique Cardoso, and they don't want Temer to go out now. They wanted Temer to stay into the next year for the election. So they probably will wrap it up, everything they can to keep Temer in there. So we are facing like the public wants Temer out, but the old parties doesn't want him out.
I want to ask you, David, about what happened earlier this year during a protest in Rio de Janeiro, where you are now, when you were hit by a car yourself after setting up traffic cones to block vehicles. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, I got up 2 in the morning to do a strike with everybody else in the city, with the youth. So we are blocking the streets so people don't get into their work in downtown. So I was blocking the street with cones, and this car came, and he didn't stop. He just ran over me, and I just pushed my arms in the top of the car and just pushed aside. And the funny thing is, like, we posted that video on Facebook, and there's so many comments saying that he did the right thing. And this just shows how, like, the internet and how people are just, like, moving towards politicians because they are not believing politicians anymore, like exactly what happened in the U.S. And it can happen now in Brazil because, like, Trump is right over there, and now we have this, like, big faces happening here. Bolsonaro, that is just like Trump. But at the same time, like, right there in the U.S., you have Bernie Sanders, who just raised the socialists, a really good part of the left, as much here in Brazil, the PSOL, the party that I'm part of it. So as much that day was, like, traumatic to me, I even saw the people's face in there and the struggles they are fighting together, the young and the old people, and that was like an achievement for life for me. In that moment, I knew they was on the right side of this fight.
Finally, we have just 15 seconds. The strike is planned for Friday, Friday this week.
Yeah, this Friday, the 30th of June, it will be for 48 hours. We are planning with the strike with the youth, the workers' class, the syndicates. Everybody's going to stop Brazil. And I don't think Temer can resist to this. I think he will fall. But the only concern here is, like, Temer falling, Rodrigo Maia, who is the head of the law house, who replaced Eduardo Cunha, the gangster, for 15 years in the prison now, also is charged on the car wash. He's being charged by corruption as well. So Brazil faces a very crisis on this moment now because the big part of the politicians here are very corrupt.
We have to leave it there. David Miranda, journalist and first LGBTQ member of the Rio City Council. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining us.